Here we are inside the hallowed corridors of Scottish Gas Murrayfield, the home of Scottish Rugby, and this weekend it's going to be the home of Scotland's encounter with Australia, the final game in the Famous Grouse Nations Series campaign, which so far has been nothing short of exciting. Looking ahead to this weekend then, it is of course myself, Caroline Blair, and the man himself, Chris Paterson. Mossy, where are we now? We're at game 3 of 4.
Yeah, with an A game kicked in as well this weekend. So yeah, it's this weekend's big in terms of, you know, obviously finishing the series well, but coming up against a really quality opposition. Australia, much better than the world ranking suggests. I think people are more aware of that now with the 2 results that they've backed up. But it's also a big game and a big weekend for Scottish Rugby in terms of finishing the series well, and then, you know, really up against a stiff challenge that will kind of determine the Famous Grouse Nations Series in a lot of ways. They always think the period between the end of the autumn tests and the start of the Six Nations is quite short in terms of its duration, but it seems like a long time because there's so much to filter in between with 1872s in Europe and ERC games. But you don't want to go into that period with a hangover of a poor performance, to mark the end of the November, the autumn test. So big weekend, a lot of pressure on. You've
been inside camp this week during what has surely got to be the busiest weekend for Scottish Rugby on record.
A few bodies.
Scotland A taking on Chile on Saturday, and then of course the senior squad taking on Australia.
Yeah, and it's great to see A-team rugby back. It's really important in players' development. It's really important for almost servicing the depth that we've now got in a lot of positions. There's a lot of talent, there's a lot of players. Over the kind of November series, Gregor has, you know, we knew the squad was big anyway, but has added to that with A players. But they've almost rotated around 3 different 15s at training. And at first you're thinking this is going to be difficult to manage because there's so many bodies, but also do you lose intensity because you're maybe perhaps doing a little bit less per training session because there's more bodies. But the weight's been managed, the weight's been set up, and then to have 3 15s of, you know, really good quality means you don't lose any intensity, you don't lose any kind of quality in the session. So whether it's a 15 in red bibs, 15 in blue bibs, 15 in white bibs, you rotate in, you're exposing a lot of players to the intensity that's needed to play international rugby.
That's hugely important for depth.
It's really important because if you don't have the depth, the intensity and the quality of the session's not there. And then if you pick up 1 or 2 injuries throughout the 3 or 4 week block, then, you know, that kind of erodes the quality as well. But luckily we've not had that. There's not been too many injuries. And then adding another 10 or 12 bodies this week, the quality hasn't dropped either. So you can see, standing at the side of the pitch or being involved, how many good individuals there are, and the challenge is for the teams to put it together on Saturday against Chile and then Sunday against Australia.
And that's something that we've seen the world champion South Africa do really well, is rotating players and doing everything you can to increase that depth, or certainly to build and maintain.
Yeah, and it comes from, you know, having the individuals to do it, but then just having the clarity of what you're trying to do to make sure your session mirrors what you're going to face at the weekend. So, and the players have said it, we've spoken to players before games and after games, in and around Scottish Gas Murrayfield in various guises, and they've all pointed at how important the team who's not playing that weekend have been in preparing the team. So there's quality there, there's depth there. It's tough to pick your first 15, it's tough to pick a bench. We have 23, there's some quality players getting first run-outs, or some real experience getting run-outs in the A-team as well. You know, Stafford captain the national team last week, he's captain A-team this week. Jamie Dobie's involved in the A-team, who's been brilliant when he's absolutely brilliant when he came off the bench and in the tests. I think Freddie Douglas coming in, there'll be a lot of people want to see the quality that we all know is there. It's hard to nail your colours to the mast and say, if you were to pick like the first 15 or the first 23, who would it be?
It's an interesting one with that Chile game as well, because you know, from Scotland A, you've got 8 of the players that played against Portugal last weekend are involved. So a frustration in many ways, the fact that they're not making the Sunday game against Australia, but at the same time a real marker of where Scotland is with regard to its depth.
Definitely. And I heard Peter Horn saying, and I agree, you'd be disappointed if the players weren't disappointed at being selected for Scotland A, but that has to be a short-term thing, and it has to switch from being disappointed and the realisation that you're not going to be involved in the test match to, right, how do I make sure that I'm involved in the next test match? And that means preparing well, training well, and and getting another opportunity to play international rugby against a test side. Scotland played Chile in the summer, obviously, and it was a full test. This is a Scotland A team.
That was a high score. What was that? It was
51-14
or something. Yeah, that's right.
52-11, whatever it was. And I went back and had a look at this earlier on, and Scotland had to play well to get the breakthrough in order to make the win comfortable in the end. Chile had a disappointing result last week. They lost to the Netherlands, whereas the week before, I think it was 40 points on Canada.
Canada, yeah.
So they're a full test side playing an A team, and they'll be looking to bounce back. They'll quite rightly be disappointed at how they performed last week. It was a big result for the Netherlands, but that's almost their perfect preparation for playing a perceived stronger side in Scotland A. So they'll come fired up. They're tough at the breakdown. They're really quite good around the set piece. But Scotland A, with the quality that they've got, have to be targeting this game initially to say let's put a marker down and let's put our hand up as individuals for inclusion in the next international squad. But also, if you look at the bench of the Scotland A team, it's a nod more to depth. Some new faces, some younger players, some fresher players coming in, and there'll be a pressure on them to deliver potentially when the game's still in the balance.
Oh, selfishly as well, I'm not going to lie, I'm looking at the lineup for the Scotland A and I'm thinking, right, well, I've got two great games this weekend back to back, because it's an opportunity to see some good talent out there as well on the pitch. So.
It is. Conditions don't look great at the moment. It's cold, wet, windy. It's I think you need the thermals dug out, and that's another challenge as well. We know that Hive can be quite an exposed old turf, and there's a learning in that in terms of how you navigate a full test side, and your experienced players will step up. And absolutely, it'll be. We're looking forward to it, but all the coaches in the national management team will be really looking forward to it as well, because it'll be a proper opportunity for them to see players in the environment that the players want to be in order to put their foot forward for international selection. And then 12 hours later or whatever, it was a 6 o'clock kickoff and a 1:40 kickoff the next day, you're right back into it with the test. Sold out, Scottish Gas, Murrayfield. Big expectation from not only Scottish people and Australian people, but everybody across the Autumn Nations Series, that everybody thinks this could be one of the special games in terms of how the teams play, potentially the points that both teams can score, and the excitement level and the style of rugby. So we'll enjoy Saturday night, but Sunday afternoon will come in pretty quickly.
Freddie Douglas, of course, the youngest men's player to throw on a Scotland jersey since the 60s, and a huge. And for the record, actually, those statistics like that, the amount of work it took Joe 5 hours to go back through the archives and work that out. But a hugely exciting day for him.
Yeah, and pressure, like there's pressure on everybody. But even when there's so much pressure on for a young player anyway, but because he's so young and the focus on it, it brings an impression. One of the things, and he's a fantastic player. He was outstanding in the under-20s for a number of games. He's played a couple of Edinburgh A games. He's been outstanding age grade stuff. We've known and seen him coming through and what he can offer. But there's always, again, like a nervousness. Is just a 19-year-old guy who hasn't played a lot of senior rugby.
Hasn't played any. Like he's not played a senior fixture for Edinburgh.
But of course, he's a brilliant player. Of course he is. But the thing that stuck out to me about everything else was he came off the bench, he flew into the first couple of breakdowns, almost got his hands on the ball, and was told to leave it with the ref, and he left it. Yeah. Like he's somebody who was, he said himself, is known for that combative element of being in the breakdown, winning turnovers, and that's what everybody's expecting. But even although everybody's expecting it, and he's getting in there, and he's maybe once or twice harshly called to get off, he got off it. So his maturity in terms of when everything's so exciting, to make the right decision, to listen to the referee and respect, like that's I have to get off it. So his maturity in decision making was what stuck out for me. And he said he never touched the ball. He made about 12 tackles in 5 minutes. He said, so defended the whole time. So it was more defence than attack, but you can see just fitting into that, and obviously winning his first cap with Alex Samuel and Ben Muncaster as well. It was a big day for them. And
you and I had a great conversation with him. We've interviewed a lot of people together, but that was a real magic interview, that one, and it is of course still available via scottishrugby.org, so well worth having a second listen to. Now, so whereas Freddie Douglas was the youngest men's player to throw in a Scotland jersey, when he made his debut back in 2018 against USA, Matt Fagerson was the youngest number 8.
He was 19 as well, wasn't he?
He was 19 years old.
That's just a couple of 100 days in it.
Now he's on, what are we on, 49 caps later? He's ready to mark his milestone with his 50th cap this weekend.
Yeah, and still only 26. Like,
got a lot to go.
That's just brilliant for Matt. He's, don't want to say unsung because he's had a lot of recognition, but he's such a consistently brilliant player. Again, somebody that excelled in the under-20s when he was young. I think he had a good couple of years in the under-20s and came through, played at Glasgow at a really young age, played Scotland at a really young age. And probably, I have no statistics to back this up, but probably the most competitive position in Scottish rugby. We seem to continually produce back row after back row. We've got some quality signings for Edinburgh, for Glasgow. Like, there's a lot of back row. And the rate of attrition, your squads need a lot of back row, but we just have such quality. So for Matt to get to 50 caps so quickly in a position that's so demanding and so competitive just shows you how good he is. So,
what do you think from a technical but accessible explanation, I suppose? But what do you think about Matt's game that ensures that longevity?
I think it's consistency. He's consistently good whether the team are winning or losing. Mm-hmm. So if the ball's put on the kick-off, he takes it. If he puts his footwork on his carrying ball, he'll beat the first man. More often than not, he'll just do the right thing at the right time. And
such a safe pair of hands.
Yeah, and he does it explosively, and he'll do it against players who are bigger. He'll do it against players that are, more evasive, or like he's just got this all-round game that's at a level of consistency the whole time. And sure, that, he plays across 6, 7, and 8. His versatility in that back row, and I think that helps a player at times, but it's also quite different. Like, your role as a 6 is different to a 7. Your role in the line out is different. If you're at number 8, your role in the kick-offs or counter-attack and kick reception. So it just shows you how quality he is, and he's got a physical edge to him that is maximal. Like, he maximises every physical confrontation with his ball carrying and defending. To do that so consistently in a position that's so competitive, just underlines, I think. So to get 50 caps alongside his brother as well, it'll mean a lot to him in terms of the family. Played sevens as well as,
which is, it always gets me to raise eyebrows. It's great to.
Well, I think it was 2018, I think the year he was captain. I think he'd already played, came in under 20s, played for Glasgow, played in European competitions, played sevens, playing international rugby. So I think the fact that he's only 26 shows how much he's crammed in and how much he's got to come.
Here's to the next 50 for him. So there's some good news for Scotland fans then this weekend, that Matt Fagerson will be looking forward to securing his 50th cap against Australia. In other news, a massive, massive achievement for not only her individually but for Scottish rugby, that Donna Kennedy is being inducted into World Rugby's Hall of Fame. Richly deserved. Scotland's highest cap player.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much more you can say about Donna. She's just like effectively, it's wrong to say single-handedly because she had a lot of support, but like just been synonymous with the growth and the development of women's rugby in Scotland and the performance level and what she achieved. She's massively respected within Scotland. I know you can, within the current group, who some of them won't remember Donna playing, but have been so impacted by the influence she's had, but not just in Scotland, but globally as well, as you can see with the World Rugby Awards. It's a massive achievement.
My favourite thing about Donna Kennedy's career, aside from its longevity and how well she did, is the fact that she made the switch from back row to the wing.
To the wing. I know.
I mean,
she could play anywhere.
She could. She's a proper Johan Cruyff School of Utility
Absolutely.
Rugby.
And there'll be elements of when she played in the back row and sitting right as a winger in terms of ball carrying and her kick-off reception and running. She's and fiercely passionate still about the game. And about the future of the game and about the international squad at the moment with the Thistles group. So she's congratulations to Donna.
It's a hugely exciting time and reinforces the putting the Scotland women on the landscape too, with of course the Six Nations for the women to look forward to as well. Before that, of course, is the men's, but we've got plenty of rugby between now and then to go. So a few highlights of this campaign so far, but for me, the greatest highlight of the Famous Grouse Nations Series 2024 has to be Sione and Mazese's Greenock Granny.
Greenock Granny.
Oh, what amazing content was. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, yeah.
Sky Scanner content.
Yeah, I think it was, it's really quite, well, it's powerful, isn't it? Of course it is. But like, I think people within the squad probably view it, not definitely to people outside the squad, but I think there's like, you probably look at Sione and Mazese's response rather than
absolutely
the Granny response. Almost, it's a brilliant bit of content, but it just, the players work so much on opening up and trying to, have a family feel and talking about themselves and what drives them, what motivates them, and like, as wonderful as that was and it is for everybody to see, there's a real powerful message in terms of what type of players Mazese and Sione are as well. But the story's brilliant, and you see the big smile on their face, and it was a shock.
It was a shock. And when she says, "My wee man,"
I know it's
she's everybody's granny.
I know it's powerful. And you just wonder what, again, on a performance level, what edge that gives Mazese on Saturday evening and Sione on Sunday afternoon as well. So that's it's brilliant to see. Really well done. Real kind of smile at the face, doesn't it? But they'll have an impact on lots of people. Obviously, the family, the lads themselves, the family, but it has an impact on the wider public as well. Well,
here's hoping we can celebrate and dedicate a win to Sione and Mazese's Greenock Granny. But what a lovely story that was, and fair play to Sky Scanner and to Scottish Rugby for pulling together such a nice little piece of content. So a final one then, I suppose, a final reflection ahead of this weekend. Mossy, your thoughts on Sunday and what a way. I mean, Australia have had some high-scoring games. There's been a lot of tries recently. So what can we look forward to?
Well, I hope a good game. Everybody expects a good game. Sometimes when the build-up's so obviously going to be spectacular, there's a nullifying element to the game. But I don't think so. I think both teams are attack-minded. Australia are more physical than people give them credit for. They were really direct against Wales in terms of just running at the first channel, whether it's Kellaway off the wing off set piece or whether it was Valentini, who was a brilliant ball carrier. Ikitau out in the middle. They're so physically direct, it gives them a bit of front foot, a bit of momentum. Then Will Skelton comes round the corner, who's even bigger than the person who took the ball the last time. And if they get that momentum and if they retain possession like Joe Schmidt's teams do, they then create a platform for their offloaders, for their steppers like Tom Wright and Sue Aliti and Lola Seo at 10, who's been really good. They'll find chinks in the armour because they can get that go forward from the direct play. So they're really well balanced. I do think they've certainly conceded a few points as well. They've conceded a few tries, so there's opportunities for Scotland. So I think they'll be really direct first up, retain possession, and then try and find those chinks in Scotland's defensive armour. Scotland will need to defend as well as they did for 60, 70 minutes against South Africa. The threat, the physical threat that Australia poses on a par with that. And if we can do that, I think we can set the platform for some points to be scored. So it's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight, and it's going to be some way to round off the Famous Grouse Nations Series. What a campaign this has been so far. Tickets are, of course, still available for Hive Stadium for Scotland A v Chile on Saturday. And while Sunday's game is a sellout here at Scottish Gas Murrayfield, there are 1 or 2 hospitality tickets still available. You can find all of the latest news and details over at scottishrugby.org. But for now, from me and from Mossy, we'll see you soon.